I'm Nicholas Broderick. I've been at the company for 15 and a half years. I started as desktop support, working in the trenches at Old Mutual in Pinelands. That's where I cut my teeth. And I had a passion for networking. I saw what the guys were doing in the networking space, and it really interested me. I loved every facet of it. I started building networks in my garage, and I started practicing. I went and wrote certifications on networking. I just had a massive passion for it, and I really enjoyed it. And then I started to branch off into the cybersecurity space, specifically with the FortiGates. Loved that as well because it was a nice mix of the security elements with networking as well. And that's pretty much my little helicopter view story. So a typical day is meeting with clients, meeting with vendors, strategizing innovation, thinking about how to improve for our clients' offerings, how to improve the value proposition that SI Futures can bring to the market. I think probably the most important facet of my job is innovation, making sure that we stay ahead of the curve, trying to bring something new and fresh to our customers, something that they can derive value from. The goal is certainly not to try and create something that can be sold or any sort of financial gain. That I consider that a bonus, but the real strategy is trying to do something different and try to create a competitive advantage for the company and to provide value for our clients. I think that's the most important part of my job. I had a massive passion for networking. The whole idea of it fascinated me. At the time, I didn't really know how it worked. You click a button and then something happens 20,000 kilometers away on the other side of the world. It was absolutely insane to me. And I wanted to understand how that worked. And that's kind of like what got me into the networking space, at least, and to understand it properly. I mean, my whole family is in IT. My uncles, all of them are in IT. My dad's in IT. So I was kind of doomed from the start. So I think the reason why I joined is because I typically take the path of least resistance, I suppose. And I definitely wanted to get into IT. I knew that was something that I wanted to do. Geordie approached me many, many years ago. I think I was 19, fresh out of school. I say fresh, it was a year already. And I was tinkering, I was building websites. I was a front end, I don't want to call it developer because that wasn't quite what I was, and that would be demolishing what developers actually do. But I was designing front-end websites for a handful of clients, and that sort of kept me, let's say, afloat. And I kind of enjoyed that. It was interesting to understand like the server stack and how the code worked on websites and things like that. And it got me sort of skilled up in the web development side, PHP and HTML specifically. And Geordie then approached me and said he wants to look at building out a wireless network for the Cambridge neighborhood. And that, like, immediately I was like, okay, I definitely want to get involved in that, because networking again was like something I seriously wanted to get into. And it was just fortuitous that I was approached with this opportunity, and Geordie was willing to throw money at it. And at the time, internet, around 2010, 2011, it was really bad in South Africa because Telkom at the time had the monopoly with their ADSL. And specifically in the Cambridge neighborhood, there was a lot of issues because of the water table and everything else. The copper was susceptible to oxidization and various issues. And a lot of people in the area had a lot of problems with their internet. And we decided, okay, let's try and build out this wireless network. And it was actually quite successful. We had a number of clients. We built out high sites within the Cambridge neighborhood, and we had a number of clients using our service. It was far superior to that of what they were getting from Telkom. Then what occurred was Geordie saw the way that I worked and how passionate I was, I suppose, and how committed I was and motivated, and he decided to offer me a job at the main company, which is SI Futures. I started at the bottom as a desktop techie, predominantly for Old Mutual. And that was a fantastic amount of experience for me, because it gave me massive insight into enterprise, how they operate, what tools are they using, how to use those tools, everything from Microsoft proxy back in the day with security layer on top of that. And there was also VMware, which was really cool, the virtual machine side, which was fairly new at the time. That was very cool to get involved in. And then obviously the networking side. I mean, we built a fairly large LAN network for the staff there at Old Mutual. The culture is constantly evolving, I suppose. I think we always try and encourage the guys to skill up, and we always give the guys opportunities where we see them, where they can fit. We've got an extensive training program at the company where the seniors are always trying to provide guidance to the junior guys. And where we see motivation from the staff, where they want to get involved in the more high level, more skilled up side of the business. I mean, we welcome them with open arms. And like I mentioned, we've got a training program where if you want to go and study something, the company will absolutely pay for that, and you will give you study leave, and we encourage that. And I think it's important that the guys skill up, not for them. It's always so, but the company benefits from it. Yes, sure. But it's also a human side as well. And they may not work at SI Futures forever, and that's fine. No one's expecting anybody to work at a company for their entire life, unless you're me, of course, I suppose. But there's a human element to this where they also need to grow and skill up so they can further their own career and everything, wherever that may take them. It's important that for people to understand that, I think. And we'll always try and foster that and try and push for the guys to get skilled up as quickly as possible. IT is becoming a fairly complex industry at the moment because it was simplified many years ago because you had your desktops and then you had your network, and it was fairly simple, and that was really what it came down to. Cybersecurity many years ago wasn't a big thing. Don't get me wrong, it did definitely have its own set of challenges, but these days now you've got like a million things to worry about with your business. Ransomware is on the rise. It's hitting companies all over the place. A lot of clients have no choice but to go for the multi-vendor approach. And each of those vendors have their own vendors. And your cybersecurity stack, you probably have 5 or 6, 7 different products in the SME space for your cybersecurity products. You got the move away from closed off MPLS networks with on-prem data centers. You've now got like SD-WAN with traffic steering across different underlays, and then you've got your SaaS-based applications because everything now is in the cloud. Most people aren't hosting their own applications anymore in a data center, and then there's an MPLS link that goes there. And it was simple and it was effective. Now everything is being moved out of on-prem and it's diversified throughout all kinds of channels in the world. And Teams and everything else. These tools have enabled businesses to grow rapidly and to be able to communicate very effectively. But there's a challenge for IT personnel because they've got to make sure that all of these things remain reliable and remain up. And it is a challenge. And speaking on the security side again, there's so many tools that you have to now look after and so many vendors that you have to look after. It becomes challenging, especially for the SME space where the budgets are not as elaborate as the bigger enterprise. I think to wrap it, I think it's the complexity of tooling. It's the complexity of the environments that you're forced to now support because of the way of the world, and everything is just being moved onto the internet, and the expectations from business that all of these things need to be up all the time and there can never be any problems. And I think it's a tall ask considering where we are today in terms of complexity. To wrap that into the SI Futures offering, I think what we do to try and make the lives easier of these IT personnel is that from a connectivity standpoint, it's managed connectivity. So everything is looked after. We've got our own NOC with 24/7 eyes on the infrastructure. If there's any service outages or any faults, our team handles that from end to end. We try to involve our clients as little as possible because, talking about the multi-vendor approach and how busy IT managers are these days looking after these complex environments, we want to take as much away from them as possible in terms of any sort of issues or anything that may come up in the environment. We want to take that burden away. We'll obviously inform them and make them aware of a problem, but don't worry, it's in hand. We're sorting this out. So really the idea here from our side is to make sure that our customers aren't worried about what's going on. We take care of everything, and to make it as simple as possible, to go back to that simplicity. We're very skilled up in the networking and the security space, and because that's where everything is going now, like I just mentioned, security is becoming complex and networking is becoming complex. All our engineers are very skilled up in both of those facets. So we don't have like a security team and a networking team. We've got security and networking. And I think that's important because that's where the world is going now. It can't be separate anymore. And that means that troubleshooting is significantly quicker. Issues are resolved much faster because of the overlap that exists there. And the clients just have fewer touch points with us as a business as well. When they pick up the phone and they talk to somebody, they're talking to somebody that wears multiple hats. So they get an answer. It's not a case of, okay, hang on, I just go talk to this person to go find out. and then I'll get back to you. And then often what happens is no one ever gets back to the people at other companies. That happens to me with our vendors, because I'm living this every day with some of our suppliers. I phone them, oh no, I don't know the answer. I need to go talk to this person. And then you've got to follow up the next day because you don't get an answer. And that's not something that happens at our company. Everyone has a good idea of what's going on, and that's one of the things that we can do for our customers to make their lives easier at the end of the day. I think fostering trust with the customers, it's difficult because, it takes, there's this old saying, it takes, a lifetime to gain it and, 2 minutes to lose it. That's extremely true. And I think my approach to building trust with clients is to offer sound solutions that are according to best practice and the gold standard. If anybody comes from an outside entity, and I tell the guys this, is that, you build these firewalls as if somebody's constantly watching. You build networks as if somebody's constantly watching. When you add a firewall rule as simple as that, always think of, the next person that's going to come along and potentially look at that firewall. And you're building it in a way that's in accordance with best practice and, what we consider the gold standard in the industry. And I think when you start to show that, the customers then start to trust you. Okay, these guys know what they're doing. They're not just going to go and log in and just add things in and walk away from it because it's the quickest thing to do. That's the path of least resistance. We do these things because we need to do them, and we need to make sure that there's a sustainable IT strategy on that as well. And that's exactly where SI Futures has positioned itself. And I think, our reputation from a lot of our customers is they use us because they don't have to be concerned. They trust our advice. They trust our processes, and they have trust that, when we provide a solution, that it's the best solution for their business and what they need as well. A lot of our clients, that when I speak to them, they're surprised at what else we offer. Because one of the things at SI is we don't sell to clients. We don't try to sell to clients. That's not our objective. We provide solutions and we solve problems. When I speak to certain clients, and I think this goes for a lot of the guys in the business, is that we say, oh yeah, we actually offer that. And they'll go, geez, I didn't actually know. And that's because we don't go into an environment or into a customer with the intention of just selling. It's, we understand what the problems are, and then we're like, right, so let's look at fixing these issues. And then, through conversations that we have with clients, once we look at the environment and we understand what it is that they're doing, where they want to go, and then we can start talking about other things. And I think they're quite surprised about all the actual services that we do offer, and they start to become like, okay, they don't realize, they just think, oh, we're just a connectivity company because that was what the original engagement was about. So when we start to talk to them, they start, okay, you guys are a hell of a lot more than just X or Y. Customer service for us is everything. It's paramount. And I think we try and instill that with a lot of the guys, is it's a customer first business. We're not a sales driven organization in any shape or form. And I think that's appreciated from our clients. We don't try to, every opportunity that we get to try and sell them some new tech or some new thing or some new hype cycle that's hit the market. We always try and provide the best solutions possible. We're not sales driven, we're outcome driven. And I think that translates into customers prefer to respond to that, and they prefer to engage with us because they know they're not going to get the next sales pitch. They're actually going to get solutions. I suppose the idea behind that, we're a business that cares. I mean, it's very difficult to quantify that and to prove to a client to say, because I suppose everyone says that, right? Everyone cares about their customers and everything else. But I think that the bottom line is our guys are working late at night, and this is going to sound very corny, but they work not because they have to, but because often they want to. When I speak to the guys, I see them, sending emails at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, or they're, working after hours. I'm like, well, what's happening? Why are you working late? It's, because obviously we don't want people to be working late because it means they don't have time. They're like, no, I actually want to get this out of the way. I actually want to do this. I'm keen to get this done for the client. I know it sounds like corny and unbelievable, but it's true. I often tell the guys, like, please go spend time with your family, go do something else. You don't have to do this, but it's crazy. They want to. They're passionate about it. And I think that is the commitment that we have with our customers as well, that we are passionate about, their environments and doing right by them. And that's why I would say choose SI over someone else. So I see on the other side of it what bad customer service is, and we'll never have that. That's a promise. What motivates me at work is providing solutions and good design to our clients. I get a lot of satisfaction about putting in a new product or putting in a new solution that the customer feels like it's provided them tremendous amounts of value. And, I get a lot of satisfaction from a customer that, mails me or phones me up and says, this thing is working really well. You guys did a great job, or whatever the case may be. And that's something that really motivates me to push and try harder to attain that kind of satisfaction from our clients. And putting in, like, again, I'm very technical in the sense that I love technology, and I love putting in solutions that, other people aren't typically thinking about. There's just a lot of cookie cutter design out there. And, we like to be more bespoke. We like to engage with our customers to understand what they want, how they want to do it, what they want to do. And then we come up with technical solutions to solve these problems. That's what really motivates me, is thinking out of the box and trying to create things that other people wouldn't typically be able to do or can't do. I would say that from a teamwork perspective, it's incredibly important for everybody to feel like they're valued and they've got a place at the company. It feels like they've got the tools they need to be able to succeed. They feel like they can speak to anybody any time of the day, say, hey, listen, I need help with this problem. Can you help me? And I think it's important that we always have a philosophy where we encourage people to succeed and to, like I said, I would love for the guys to skill up, and I try and motivate them to anything from watching YouTube videos. I mean, I've got a whole bunch of tech channels that I subscribe to, and I share those with the guys. They watch this guys. You can learn from this particular person. Sometimes you can't articulate yourself very well. And, when it comes to technical problems or training or whatever. So it's good to share, what you have with the guys to try and foster that growth in a team environment. I play cricket as a hobby. Obviously, it's winter now, but in summer, we've got a social cricket team where we participate in a league. Socializing with friends is obviously very important to me as well, making sure that I stay in touch with on the social side. Otherwise, it can drive you a bit crazy, I suppose, if you don't get out. Especially, like I said, I work a hell of a lot, and sometimes I need to actually just pull myself out of that sort of void. About a year ago, I got into sim racing. So I bought my own sim racing equipment and gear, and I've been really enjoying that. Where I get an opportunity to race or to practice, I love something that I've realized about myself is I enjoy doing things that are naturally difficult and then trying my best to get good at them. Sometimes I succeed and sometimes I fail miserably, but the journey is very enjoyable. And racing in particular is one of those things that I thoroughly enjoy because it is incredibly difficult. I mean, the first time I did it, I could barely drive a car, even though I've got a driver's license, I promise. But going into that racing, and that, especially where the simulators are now, it's absolutely crazy how real they are. That's something that I actually thoroughly enjoy, was just trying to get good at it. I realize that that's what motivates me, is taking on something that's challenging and actually trying to excel at it. If I had to say a favorite movie, it has to be the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I mean, it can't not be. Band of Brothers. I love Asian food. Sim racing at the moment. The things I'm most excited about is the unified dashboards that we're currently building for our customers. IT is becoming very complex. You've got a million systems in a typical, even in an SME environment. You've got multiple products. And all of these products have their own dashboard with their own, reporting and everything else. And what SI is building is a view and a unified dashboard to bring all of the best parts of these things into one. And I think that's going to provide massive amounts of value, especially for the IT managers that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. It's exciting technology. Is we've obviously built our own network. It's been live now for about a year, our own as an ISP, and that just continues to grow, and we just continue to build on it and provide better offerings and more value on the ISP front. It's quite interesting that when you start getting into it and you start to see what you can do, and it's quite funny that people aren't doing this, and that's like really exciting for the guys as well, because we're sort of done dealing with the traditional ISPs that just don't offer the level of service that our customers have come to expect. So we now do it on our own, and it's been great. As the company grows, as we bring in more people and we hire on more resources, I think it's important, because I've been here for so long. I mean, I understand the company culture. I understand our customers. And I think it's important to steer these individuals through, how we do things, making sure it's done the right way. And then just keep innovating, keep growing our infrastructure, make sure it's scalable, it's enterprise first. We try to avoid prosumer products as much as we can. What I see in the industry happening is that as people grow, all of a sudden, using enterprise grade products like Cisco, Juniper, or Arista, in your own network and in the services that you offer to customers, all of a sudden becomes too expensive. You're making more money, but yet you're compromising on the enterprise equipment that you're using. I see it happen all the time. And that's not something that I want to do at all. I want to stick with what we know is enterprise grade. And as we grow, I think it's important that we keep to that path and we don't go the other way that I've seen a lot of other vendors go. To wrap it all, it's just making sure that we keep doing what we're doing. We keep doing it well. Customer service is priority, and the IT that we put in is rock solid and scalable. Early on in my career, I was opposed to new ideas and new technologies. I wanted to stick with what I knew worked, and the change that I've had is that over the last, I'd say 8 years at least, is where I have decided that you need to incorporate newer tech. Yes, the hype cycles are hype cycles for the most part, but there's glimmers of technology there in those stack that can actually be used quite effectively. I hate the Silicon Valley marketing that we see these days, which is, they take a concept that was actually pushed 20 years ago and they reinvent the wheel, and then the marketing people now push it as this big thing that's now happening. But in reality, it was something that was 20 years ago already, and now all of a sudden it's a big thing. It's something that I've needed to open myself up to, at least, is that we need to start looking at innovation and utilizing the new designs and new tech more so than what we previously did, not just hammering away at the same thing.